The forest of Blackwood Vale was forbidden. The villagers of Oakhaven claimed it was cursed. They said a witch lived in the shadows of the ancient pines, a demon in human skin who commanded the beasts of the wild. Duke Alaric didn't believe in witches. He believed in steel, maps and taxes. He had ridden into Oakhaven to settle a land dispute, not to hunt fairy tales. But as he sat in the village tavern, nursing a tankard of ale, the church bell began to toll. Not a slow, mournful toll, a frantic, clanging alarm. "Witch!" a man screamed outside. "We found the witch!" Alaric stood up, his hand going to his sword. He stepped out into the muddy street. A mob had gathered. 50 men and women, armed with pitchforks and torches, were marching toward the edge of the forest. They were dragging a cage, and inside the cage was a woman. She was wild. That was the only word for her. Her hair was a tangled mane of raven black, filled with twigs and leaves. Her dress was made of animal skins, stitched together with gut. She was dirt-streaked and snarling, gripping the bars of the cage with hands that looked more like claws. "Burn her!" the village priest shouted, thrusting a torch into the air. "Burn the beast before she summons her devils!" Alaric pushed through the crowd. "Make way!" he commanded. The villagers parted, cowed by his velvet cloak and the crest of the dukedom on his chest. Alaric walked up to the cage. He looked at the woman. She stopped snarling. She froze, pressing herself against the back of the iron bars. Her eyes locked onto his. They were violet. Alaric felt a jolt of recognition, though he couldn't place it. Those eyes, they were too intelligent, too human for a beast. "On what authority do you burn this woman?" Alaric asked the priest. "She is a monster, my lord," the priest spat. "She lives with the wolves. She speaks their tongue. She stole a lamb from Farmer McGinty." "I was hungry," the woman rasped. Her voice was low, guttural, as if she hadn't used words in years. "See, she speaks," the mob roared. "Burn her." They surged forward. A torch was thrown. It landed in the straw at the base of the cage. The dry grass caught fire instantly. The woman screamed. It wasn't a human scream, it was a howl. A high, piercing sound that echoed off the mountains. Suddenly, the forest exploded. Grey shapes poured from the tree line. Wolves, massive, snarling timber wolves. There were a dozen of them. They didn't attack the cage. They attacked the mob. The villagers screamed, dropping their torches and fleeing in terror. The priest scrambled up a tree. Alaric drew his sword, bracing himself. He stood his ground as the pack circled the burning cage. But they didn't look at him. They looked at the fire. One of the wolves, a massive alpha with a scarred ear, leaped at the cage door. It bit the iron latch, tearing at it with jaws strong enough to crush bone. The woman inside reached through the bars, stroking the wolf's muzzle. "Help me," she whispered. Alaric looked at the fire rising around her. He looked at the wolves, who were whining in panic. He made a choice. He sheathed his sword. He grabbed a discarded pitchfork and slammed the handle into the lock of the cage. With a grunt of exertion, he twisted the metal until it snapped. He kicked the door open. "Get out!" Alaric shouted over the roar of the flames. The woman tumbled out, coughing. The wolves swarmed her immediately, licking her face, nudging her with their noses. She buried her hands in their fur, sobbing. She looked up at Alaric. The firelight danced in her violet eyes. "Run!" Alaric told her. "Go back to the woods." "No," she whispered, clutching her side. A burn mark seared her skin where the dress had caught fire. I cannot run," Alaric cursed. He couldn't leave her here. The mob would return with guns. He whistled for his horse. The stallion, terrified of the wolves, reared but held its ground. Alaric lifted the wild woman onto the saddle. He looked at the alpha wolf. "I am taking her," Alaric said to the beast. Do not follow!" The wolf stared at him. It let out a low growl, then stepped back. It understood. Alaric mounted behind her and spurred the horse into a gallop, riding away from the village, away from the fire, and toward his fortress in the high pass. The journey to the castle was silent. The woman sat stiffly in front of him, smelling of wood smoke and pine. When they arrived, the servants gasped. "A savage, your grace," the housekeeper sniffed. "In the guest wing?" "She is a guest," Alaric said firmly. "Bathe her, feed her, and burn those skins." He retired to his study, pouring a stiff drink. He couldn't shake the image of her eyes. Violet. He had seen that colour only once before, in a painting in the Royal Gallery. The next morning, Alaric went to the guest wing. The woman was sitting by the window. She was scrubbed clean, wearing a blue silk gown that was too big for her. Her hair had been brushed, though it still looked wild. She looked up as he entered. She didn't bow, she didn't smile. "You caged me in stone," she said, gesturing to the castle walls. "I saved your life," Alaric corrected her. "What is your name?" "The wolves call me She Who Runs." "Your human name?" She hesitated. "Elara, I remember." "Elara, Elara," Alaric tested the word. "How long have you been in the forest?" "Always, since the carriage broke, since the screaming men came." Alaric frowned. "Screaming men?" "Red coats," Elara said, her eyes darkening. "They killed the driver. They killed the nurse." "I ran. The Alpha found me. He kept me warm." Alaric's blood ran cold. He walked to the bookshelf and pulled down a heavy tome. The lineage of the high houses. He flipped to the page regarding the royal family. 10 years ago, the Princess Elara vanished while travelling through the Blackwood Vale. Her carriage was found at the bottom of a ravine. Her body was never recovered. The king's brother, Lord Vortigern, claimed the throne as regent, declaring the princess dead. Alaric looked at the portrait, in the book, a 5-year-old girl with raven hair and striking violet eyes. He looked at the woman by the window. She was chewing on a piece of mutton with her hands, unaware that she was the heir to the kingdom. "Elara," Alaric said softly, "come here." She walked over, wary as a cat. Alaric reached into his pocket. He pulled out a silver coin with the king's profile on it. "Do you know this face?" Elara looked at the coin. She touched it. "Papa," she whispered. The word hung in the air. She wasn't a witch. She was the queen. Alaric knew the danger immediately. Lord Vortigern, the regent, was a ruthless man. If he knew the princess was alive, he would finish the job he started 10 years ago. "You are safe here," Alaric promised her, "but you must not leave these walls. Do you understand? The bad men, the red coats, they are still looking for you." Elara's eyes narrowed. "I am not afraid of men. I have the pack." "The pack is not here, Elara. You are in my world now." For weeks, Alaric tried to civilize her. He taught her to use a fork. She stabbed the potato. He taught her to read. She tried to eat the paper. It was frustrating, chaotic, and enchanting. Alaric found himself laughing for the first time in years. Elara was honest in a way courtiers never were. If she was bored, she walked away. If she liked the food, she hummed. She was pure instinct. And Alaric, a man of rigid rules, found himself falling in love with the chaos. One evening they were walking in the castle garden. "Why do you wear this?" Elara asked, touching the starched collar of his uniform. "It chokes you. It is a symbol of rank," Alaric said. "It is a collar," Elara shrugged. "Wolves do not wear collars. We follow the Alpha because he is strong, not because he wears a shiny rock." Alaric smiled. "And do you think I am strong, Elara?" Elara stopped. She stepped close to him. She sniffed his neck, inhaling his scent. "You smell like iron and ink," she said, "but underneath you smell like fear." "Fear?" Alaric was insulted. "I fear nothing." "You fear for me," she whispered. You watch the horizon like a sentry. "Because you are precious," Alaric admitted, his voice rough. He reached out and touched her cheek. She leaned into his hand, a gesture of trust she had learned from the wolves. He kissed her. It wasn't a courtly kiss. It was wild, desperate. Suddenly a horn blew from the ramparts. "Your Grace!" a guard shouted. "Riders approaching, royal banners!" Alaric pulled away. He looked over the wall. A column of soldiers was riding up the valley. At the head rode a man in black armour, Lord Vortigern. "Hide her," Alaric ordered his captain. "Put her in the cellar. Do not let her out." He walked to the gate to meet the regent. Lord Vortigern dismounted. He was a snake of a man, thin and pale. "Duke Alaric," Vortigern smiled. "I hear rumours, strange rumours, of a wild woman you rescued from a fire, a woman with violet eyes." Alaric kept his face stone. "Just a peasant girl, my lord. She is mad. I keep her as a charity. I would like to see this peasant," Vortigern said, his hand resting on his sword. "She is ill," Alaric lied. "Contagious." Vortigern laughed. "I am immune to most things, Duke. Bring her, or I will burn this castle to the ground to find her." Alaric hesitated. He had 50 guards. Vortigern had 500. Suddenly a howl cut through the air. It came from the castle walls. Alaric looked up. Elara was standing on the battlements. She had escaped the cellar. She had ripped off the silk dress and was wearing her old skins. Vortigern looked up. He gasped. "It's her!" he hissed. "The brat survived! Kill her!" Vortigern screamed to his archers. "Shoot her down!" Arrows flew. Alaric drew his sword. "No!" But Elara didn't duck. She threw her head back and let out a sound that froze the blood in Alaric's veins. It was a call, a summons. From the hills surrounding the castle, the answer came. Hundreds of howls. The wolf pack hadn't left. They had followed her. They had been waiting in the tree line, watching over their sister. "Open the gates!" Elara screamed down to Alaric. "Let them in!" Alaric looked at the regent's army. He looked at Elara. "Open the gates!" Alaric roared to his men. The heavy timber doors creaked open. A grey tide flooded into the courtyard. Wolves, hundreds of them. They poured over the regent's soldiers like water. Horses reared, throwing their riders. Men screamed, dropping their weapons. It was chaos. It was nature taking revenge on civilization. Vortigern drew his sword, backing away. "Keep them back!" The alpha wolf, the one with the scarred ear, leaped over the line of guards. It landed on Vortigern's chest, pinning him to the muddy ground. Vortigern shrieked, holding his hands up. Elara leapt from the ramparts, landing in a haycart. She rolled and sprang to her feet, walking through the battlefield. The wolves parted for her. She walked up to Vortigern. The alpha growled, its jaws inches from the regent's throat. Elara stood over him. "You killed the driver," she said calmly. "You killed the nurse. I am the king," Vortigern stammered. "You are prey," Elara said. She looked at the alpha. "He is yours." She turned away as the alpha descended. She didn't watch. She walked straight to Alaric, who was standing amidst the carnage, his sword lowered in awe. Alaric looked at the woman covered in dirt, surrounded by beasts. "My queen," he whispered, dropping to one knee. Elara laughed. She pulled him up. "No collars, Alaric," she reminded him. She kissed him right there in the bloody courtyard, with the wolves howling their victory song around them. Elara was crowned queen a month later. She didn't wear a crown of gold. She wore a crown of woven ivy. She didn't sit on the throne. She paced the throne room. And the royal guard? They were replaced by a pack of 12 timber wolves who slept at the foot of her dais. It's a story that asks a fundamental question. What makes a true leader? Is it the bloodline, the education, and the fancy clothes? Or is it the raw, protective instinct of the alpha, Elara was raised by beasts, yet she showed more humanity than her uncle who was raised in a palace. I know who I'd vote for. If you enjoyed running with the pack today, claw that like button. It helps the algorithm find the scent. And if you want to join our tribe of rebels, mystics and romantics, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The full moon is rising and you don't want to miss the next hunt. Until then, trust your instincts.